Welcome to Future Sense Now, where we explore the landscape and byways of our shared futures, an e-zine of the Futures Forum live online. We exchange ideas, information, and inspiration about the futures we want. Get Future Sense Now with host Dr. Claire Nelson, futurist and editor of Human Futures.
Greetings and welcome to Future Sense Now, an online e-magazine of the Futures Forum. February is Black History Month, and so we're having a conversation on the future history of Black America. Specifically, I'd like to examine how Blacks in America might fare in the year 2030, 2040, 2050. Well, I want to kind of focus more on 2030, given that it's considered a poll year with the members of the United Nations, because they have the UN Agenda 2030, which calls for 17 global goals around sustainable development. One of them, goal number 10, focuses a lot on inequality, and that's where we want to focus our conversation today. Indeed, by 2030, the United States of America will be a majority-minority country. So, what is the future of Blacks in America? In this episode, I will be speaking with Dr. Lisa T. Richardson, who is owner of a very small business, well, not so small business. She's a strategic plan consultant who owns her own small business and focuses on working with very small business owners. She is ready to do battle with your sanity if you're a small business owner. As she claims terrible tech beasts, wrangles wayward words, and sorts out snaggle systems to help micro business grow and thrive in-house and online. More importantly, she has a very, I would say, unusual way of getting small business owners and micro small business owners to focus. She has what she calls tea-infused tactical sessions. And tech training designs Aspire retreats. Now that, I think, I personally will have to take a note of and probably try to participate in as soon as this interview is over. And more importantly, done for you content marketing solutions. So there's a lot of things certainly that she's been doing to help people find a way to create wealth. And so we want to focus our conversation then on the concept of work and wealth. I must say that she has a doctorate in psychology, has worked a lot in tertiary education space, and so she's bringing all of that talent and skill and expertise to this new area. As I'm saying, she's been doing for over 12 years, this area of helping micro businesses grow, scale, and hopefully become multi-million-dollar businesses. So the future of work and wealth. Dr. Lisa Richardson, as I said, you are aware, I'm sure by now, that UN Agenda 2030 talks about these goals. You know about obviously where we're going to be, 8 billion people, AI everywhere, the future of the Internet of Things, 4 million phones, 5G, unemployment creeping high, and future of work. As you think about these things from your vantage point, as somebody who coaches micro small businesses, what do you think 2030 might look like, and how might the future of inequality emerge?
Well, first, thank you for having me. And really, as we move forward towards 2030, what we really want to do is leverage the way that technology is used in our everyday lives and create businesses out of the innovation in every day. So as we move forward, the resultant inequality, if God willing, we move past it by 2030, the key to doing that is leveraging our own tools, technologies, and innovations in order to create that wealth moving forward. I want to say the passport of success used to be education, and it still is to a great extent. Of course, I've got the alphabet after my name, but for those of us who really, really need to see that change in local neighborhoods at the local government level, it really comes from teaching individuals to move forward in technology by learning how to use and instead of just consume the tools that are released each year at CES and along the way. So rather than just buying new tools, leveraging them in order to create businesses for ourselves that help us create wealth moving forward.
So it sounds to me that you certainly see, in terms of, first of all, that our Black community has to continue to see themselves as individual channels of empowerment. That's the thing of what I heard you say.
Yes.
And secondly, that we ought to be looking around us and what is happening, technology and how that's shaping our lives. Certainly this very important thing that those of us who went to school in the 70s understand, was that the size of the computer labs we used to take our box of cards to. You're saying that we need to seize the moment with these things to create space and create an economic path forward. Do you think that the policymakers at the local city and council level, being that you are working in a space where you're working with small businesses, I'm sure you're working with chambers of commerce, do you find that the relationship between, let's say, the people who are running these associations that try to address the needs of small business owners, micro business owners, and the people who are making the policies at the city level, where especially we see so much gap in wealth and disparity, you think that some of those people are beginning to see or understand what's at stake, or understand the policies that need to be created to help you accomplish what you're trying to do?
Well, to some extent, there's a long way to go there, because we have to remember that our policymakers and our chamber leaders are still people. And until we feel more self-efficacy in using our technology rather than just doing what we were taught to do, the policies that they generate are going to reflect their own relationship with technology. And what I mean by that, for example, is if you think about recent legislations and movements at the local government level to restrict Airbnb homes, because the HOA or the neighborhood association doesn't like these frequent flyer renters or the short-term rental industry as a whole, because they feel it brings their property values down. But at the same time, you have folks who they start with renting out one room, or they rent out their home for the weekend, and then they build a real estate investment portfolio based on these homes. This is wealth that starts with, I need to get out of debt in my home, and it grows into a very large business, right? Yeah. So step by step, we have to understand that when you make rules across the board and you think you're fighting big tech, or you're fighting folks in Silicon Valley, we have to remember that we're actually talking about individuals in our neighborhoods, our neighbors and our colleagues and our friends, who are trying to make that next move forward. So education across the board about what it means to be technologically inclined and what is a techie, we have to have that understand our personal relationship and our views and perspectives of technology, because that's usually the limiting factor in moving forward.
Next question. So when we look at the same question, or follow up on that question, certainly people like myself, we are not digital natives, right? So while I might use the technology to the best of my ability, I certainly tell people I don't really use my phone. My phone uses me, right? Because it's getting my data and selling it to people that I don't know about. But I'm wondering if, as we think about how those of us who try to actually shape the future by doing things to make a difference consciously and intentionally, I wonder if then, as somebody who is in the space of quote unquote coaching and education, that your work might not call for a technology coaching, if you will, for political people and staff who are not in the digital native age group, or more importantly, sort of pushing the agenda to ensure that they all have on their staff somebody who is in that age group, who is under 30, for whom these things, they were born to seeing a cell phone. How do you think that people like yourself who are in the business of helping to create an economic engine in our community might come together to kind of push the chambers of commerce themselves to help advocate for policy that might drive the shift in thinking so that we can get the policy to support the small and micro business owners?
That's going to come really from myself and others in the field, really reaching out. So for example, my business is consulting with micro business, but I'm also going to be speaking at the National Black Political Convention to political leaders about the micro business relationship in the local economy. So we're going to have to leave from our little networks at home and actually reach out with our content, with our platforms available, networking across the board. And this is something that I recommend to my clients anyway. Reach out of your circle to educate people about how to use you and how to address this relationship. Now, in my case, I get to leverage my background in education, and that cachet helps to move along. But the average professional business owner can go and speak to the chamber, address the local council during the meetings, during the town halls and even the regular meetings, because those meetings unfortunately are still so underattended that
that's true.
you can get up there and stay on the mic all night if you really wanted to. I mean, I don't recommend that. You certainly don't want to lose anyone, but the idea is that you have to create your platform and create the opportunity to connect with those who are going to make those changes. And so you do that at your local Chamber of Commerce. It's still very relevant, even if you're a micro business. Find one that creates the space actually for freelancers and micro business owners and solopreneurs. There are some out there. Ours does, but if they don't have one, create one. Again, create your platform, and that then you start off being the expert in the room, and you can start driving that knowledge forward.
What do you think are some of the technologies that are going to be critical in terms of opportunities for solopreneurs and consultants to start where they are with what they have? I mean, I know that there's a lot of talking about money for Black women startups, but startup to do what? Where do you think technologies are, besides doing another yet brand in hair care? I mean, yes, we have seen, it's wonderful, we have all these choices, but besides that, where are the real technological opportunities that are going to be around in 2030, 2040? Where's the technology taking us, and where should people be looking for those opportunities?
Well, the idea, the very best business for you is the one that wherever you have the most knowledge and where you enjoy being. Josh Steinley talks about your genius zone, which is what you're good at, what you want to be known for, and something that unites them and has your full attention and passion. And that circle right there in the middle is where you will then become the expert in that area. So leverage the technology tools you have, the social media tools to create a platform. Understand the importance of design in powering your message forward, because if it's nice to look at, people will pay attention. And so my recommendation, if you're going to start something today, start writing. Content writers of any topic under the sun, is that area is somewhere that's not going to go away, because even experts in the field don't like to write. And writing is a skill that can be learned and improved upon, even if you start from scratch.
But when you're thinking about technology, though, because I'm trying to figure out 2030, I mean, there AI available now that can write poetry. I mean, they've done AI past what they call the Turing test, where it's can you train an AI to write poetry that humans would think was written by a human. So even writing may be a skill that may not be so needed by humans. So when I'm thinking about 2030 and 2040, and so if your child is 18 now going to college, they'll be in 10 years, be certainly in their second or third job. Where do you think that job is going to be? Or where do you think that thing that they're creating is going to be? How do you, as even a small business coach, have to prepare your clients for not being becoming obsolete in 2 or 3 years?
I don't know, because there's a part of me that loves the idea of technology taking over all of the things that we don't want to do, but then there's the danger of becoming reliant on something that requires electricity to run. So I don't think there's going to be a point where we as humans are obsolete, but certainly repairing electronic devices is never going to go away, because no matter how good we build it, it's going to break at some point, and there's going to be some point in the manufacturing that something gets missed. There's innovating the everyday. There's a wealth of things that we can do to design better ways to be and live. And I think the most opportunity is in making people's lives easier. Public schools are not going to miraculously become highly technologically advanced in the next 10 to 15 years, as much as we'd like for it to happen. So there's innovation in transportation, there's engineering, there's, I do have a college-age son, and honestly, I want him to learn. If I had to create a program for him today to guarantee that he had a job on the other side, it would be in design, writing, or marketing.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you build, you got to help people buy it. You have to help sell it.
In coaching some of your clients who are micro businesses, do you find that does your work extend to, we're talking about wealth creation, because I mean the future of work and wealth inequality, how that shapes up. If we're talking about future of work where a lot of the low-end jobs are going to go away. I mean, I read some time ago, actually almost 4 years ago, that China itself was testing robots to work in fast food chains. Now, if a robot works in a fast food chain in America, that's it. Do you think that there should be some attention to policies? In other words, that political people have to make choices and say, look, we're not going to allow this technology to become the dominant technology in this particular industry, because that's where people work. I'm going to give you an example. So in New Jersey and Oregon, by policy, there is no self-pumping gas stations. So that's a political choice. They want to make sure that low-end people could have jobs. Do you think that we may have to be thinking about this as an alternative, just to say, look, it's all well and good that we can do it, but not because we can, that means we should. What are your thoughts on that?
I see it from both sides. Yes, we want to preserve the ability for someone to get their first job, or to get a job that has a low barrier to entry. At the same time, though, we're also preserving that job is the pay for that job is not really ever going to go up that much. So I err on the side of teach those technology and do those knowledge-based jobs that have a low barrier to entry. And so something like starting a blog, starting a marketing company, starting a driving for Uber, even, that don't have, you already have the tools in your pocket to get started. So I value that low barrier job, but at the same time, I want the income opportunity to increase, because you're not going to be able to support a family at the pumping gas, right? And the amount of time you have to invest in that job, in that low wage job, takes you away from the opportunity to learn something that will pay better and improve your life moving forward.
Do you think that our community has made any shift in terms of, we have all these free courses on Coursera, for example, and we have all these apps that you can learn stuff from. Have you seen, because I don't know, do you have any evidence that we have, beyond looking at hairstyles and how to braid hair, etc., that we have a culture of being willing to teach ourselves these skills that you're talking about at a level we need to have that change in, let's say, a community moving from seeing the numbers go up in this particular area of the city because they now have access to all of this software?
Well, I do know of folks who are self-taught into and have self-taught themselves into high-paying careers based on all of that free education available. The difference between those folks and, say, someone who's, I spend a lot of time in the beauty area of YouTube myself.
Yeah.
The difference then is knowing what is available, what is there out there to learn. They don't know what questions to ask yet. And it is the promotion of that availability of knowledge that is key to moving forward among the groups that are disadvantaged in terms of areas of lower economic development.
So let's look at media then. So how does Black media, since there still is a Black media, quote unquote, on radio and in print, what is their role then in sort of playing a part in the awakening, if you will, of people's mindset to be able to ask the right question so that we can individually move forward at a pace that allows us to change the trajectory of the future?
The role of Black media there then is to not just celebrate the major technology wins, venture capital investment, things like that. They have to create the interest in other things that can be done. Unfortunately, a lot of us still, we have our realm of expertise and we stay there. So if they don't have a resident techie on the team, it may never get talked about. And they may not think to reach out to someone like that because, well, I don't need to know, so I'm not going to, it doesn't occur to them to talk about it as news or as something that they should generate interest in. It remains in the realm of education, specifically in STEM education, or it's, one event that says, oh, these are the tech jobs. But when, for example, career day at school, right? Mommy is a web developer and she works from home all day. But when career day comes, we talk to the doctors, the lawyers, the judge, everyone outside that realm who may ultimately rely on mommy, the web developer, but mommy, the web developer isn't invited because that's not a job that you can recognize immediately as something that you don't look like a web developer every day, for example. There's no web developer uniform. You don't wear a suit every day. So that's not something that, is promotable. It's playing on the internet, playing on the computer. My mom still says sometimes I'm playing on the computer. No, she doesn't. I got her to stop saying that about 5 years in. 5 to 10 years in, she stopped saying I was playing on the computer.
Yeah, so I hear you because, as you say, there's no uniform, and if you're coming from a long history and culture of jobs and work looking a particular way, and that's why, for example, certainly in my era, when I thought about doing theater for a living, I was sounded chastised and sent to go back to your room and think again and come up with something intelligent.
Yes, so there has to be a real job.
Plan B, which was let me be an engineer then, okay? That's what plan B. So as this, I mean, you're working now, you're helping small businesses, and I'm sure you're listening to a lot of people's dreams and hopes for their companies. And I'm sure that a part of you is like, of course, dreaming along with them so you can be a good coach and supporter. But on the flip side of things, knowing what you kind of know about the shape of technology, what are some of the things that keep you up at night? When you look at the future of America, the American dream, what people are still trying to aspire to, what are some of the things that keep you up at night?
I want to say the biggest hurdle that I have to get over at any time is, again, people's personal relationship with technology. And when I did my research, I did it on computer anxiety and the way that it affects how you process information online, learning online. And that hurdle of this machine in front of me, it's not human, it's not natural, it's not something that I can get to do what I want without telling it exactly what needs to happen. So what keeps me up at night is the possibility of being unable to ever really help the average person understand that tool, that machine is a tool, just like a hammer, just like a wrench. It's something that you have to have on hand to do something that you really want to do. And when you let the fear of managing this machine get in the way of your dreams and your future success, that's where I'm really very challenged. A nice way to put it.
Yeah. I have to say, as somebody who uses the computer a lot, obviously I'm on the audience, like I'm using it too much, I think. I don't even get it from the computer. There is this, I wouldn't say I have a fear of using it, but I still have a fear of the time that it's going to crash at any moment. So, which is not good, because I'm thinking this is not a good thing to do. What is it that you need to do? Because you shouldn't be living with this constant thing in your back of your mind. I hope because you know, it's not a good thing to do for your health. But again, if you jump in the future and you look at, okay, we're talking about now smart computers, enabled computers. We're talking about now, we're talking, how many 100 miles apart from each other. We're talking and seeing each other. We're talking about one step up in the future with 5G, when you're looking at virtual rooms where we can actually be three-dimensional place in that room. How do you see what you're doing, or what would you want to amplify? If you could say, look, I'm going to work on 3 things to amplify what I'm doing so I can replicate my success and make it happen faster. What are those things you would think about doing?
Okay, let's see. The first thing is to work on advising policymakers and chamber leaders of the value and importance of very small businesses in their local economy. For example, the Walmart executives are not, down the street drinking coffee and driving dollars in that neighborhood. But your very small businesses are. Folks your realtors, your consultants, your freelancers, they're all physically driving that economy right there where they live. So the first thing then would be, yes, as I said, they working with policymakers to understand that. Then the second level is educating underemployed individuals about the opportunities to create a space for themselves professionally and financially that helps them be self-sustainable. And then again, contributing to the local economy.
Mm-hmm.
And third would be educating business owners similarly to how to amplify their own messages so that they can grow better and live the life that they really want to be living, and not kind of suffering from scattered strategies and being unable to figure out what that one thing they should be doing is.
Are you, when you think about 2030 and our statistics in terms of small business owners, startups, which we do very well at starting, when you think about the numbers of Black women starting business, that's very high, but they tend to be solo entrepreneurs. Do you envisage, are you optimistic, pessimistic, or neutralistic that that number in terms of startup scaling to now becoming employers, moving from being self-employed to being an employer, do you see, or are you optimistic, pessimistic, or neutralistic that that number is going to change, and at 2030 we really are going to be able to see that shift in terms of wealth creation and job creation?
I'm going to claim neutral on this one, because really the growth of solopreneurs and freelancers as a collective engine, the goal is not really to grow into a large employing business. Rather, the goal is to partner with other solopreneurs. So rather than employing more people under us, as it were, we create more businesses to work with as partners.
Aha. So it's a very important distinction. I think I also want to mention it again. So you're saying the future of work and wealth is not going to be the old industrial style workplace where you have a big employee and employer and then people work under that person. Mm-hmm. That form of business is going to shift and will not become the desired foreign norm, if you will, in 10 years. That indeed the way people are shifting now, they prefer to work in more of a hive or matrix effect, where they don't want to be, in other words, our personalities are changing. We don't want to have those jobs. And that's an interesting thing to know. That I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad we didn't end before this was brought up, because it's a very important thing to note. So we think about 2030 then. I want you to give me a quick headline on a success, how success looks. If you're thinking about the community in which you're working right now, 10 years from now, because you've been doing this work, what does a successful headline look like about the success of this new ecosystem that you would have created?
What does a headline look like?
In 2030.
In 2030. An entire neighborhood of owners. A neighborhood that is part of a city where the intercommunity of and growth as a unit, because I actually live in a new city right now, and there are quite a few very small businesses within the neighborhoods. I see cities built and growing based on this interconnected network of neighborhoods of owners.
Okay, so there you have it, folks. In 2030, communities, inner city communities in America will be thriving as we have growing hive/networks, meshworks of micro business owners working collectively to create greater good for themselves, their families, and their community. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
And thank you for making it happen. Folks, I just want to thank you so much, Dr. Lisa Richardson, consultant to very small business, #very small biz, that's her nomenclature, for sharing some thoughts on how you see the future of work and wealth from the point of view of somebody who is helping coach small and very small business owners. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a very enjoyable experience.
Yes, so friends, this is it. We have come to the end of another great conversation. Thank you for joining us on Future Sense Now, where we explore salient ideas for sustainable futures Remember, the future is embedded in the landscape of today. So seize the future as we create the future today. Until next time, safe journeys. Safe journeys.
Thank you for listening to Future Sense Now with Dr. Claire Nelson. Future Sense Now is produced by the Futures Forum in Washington, D.C. For more information, visit www.thefuturesforum.org. Remember, our futures are embedded in the landscape of our present stories. Seize the day, share this story, and share the future.